you. Look how far you've come. You faced your trauma and you came out on the other side. And I'm sorry to get a little emotional, but there were some times there when I was really worried about you, Miss Girl. Look at you today. I am so proud of you. You survived, baby. You're a survivor.
You really mean that?
This little college thing.
Hi, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel, whichever one suits you. Make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you are interested in med school vlogs. That's like my primary niche. I will be honest with y'all because I know how people are when they're pre-meds and they're applying to med school. They start sourcing out videos for stat-based things. This is not going to be that. This video is going to be about my personal journey and me focusing more on the situations and the things that happened to me along the way. And please do not take me as a personal creator saying that stats are not the only thing or the end all be all, as stats don't matter at all. I'm just giving you a pocket of pre-med content that is not focused on stats. So if that's some kind of content you're interested in, you're okay with dealing with that, I'm the person for you. If there is anything that I mentioned throughout the video that you want more context to, or you have personal questions, please do not hesitate to leave a comment down below, or if you find my Instagram, which is always in my description box, you can DM me on Instagram if it's a little bit more personal. The first segment is going to be over my childhood experiences or influences that kind of drove me towards medicine. So one of the first few exposures that I had to medicine beyond familial experiences was vet medicine, and it was through the fact that we had a family dog. We had multiple family dogs, but we had like one long-term family dog named Fitzgerald. Rest in peace to that little baby. And my grandmother also loved watching Animal Planet, and she would play like the vet shows that they had on there. And because I was a kid at the time, all I seen was, I love animals, y'all make animals feel better, I want to do this. So that was like my first memory of medicine being something that I actively was like, oh, I want to do this. However, my mom, because she was a single mom, so we bounced back and forth between her living on her own and us also living with my grandmother, or my grandparents in general, and my aunt who had sickle cell beta thalassemia, and my uncle who had cerebral palsy. They both lived there, so we grew up together. And I have two other siblings with my mom too, so it was me, my two siblings, my mom, my grandparents, my aunt, and my uncle at one point. So yeah, that's one thing. My auntie more specifically, I felt drawn to like wanting to take care of her and wanting to like grow up, be bigger, make her experience better. I didn't even have a full grasp of what sickle cell beta thalassemia was. I had no idea. All I know is my aunt being in incredible pain. I see her doing certain things. She goes to the doctor. She talks about her experiences. It made me feel like all I want to do is help you and save you and make you feel better, so that when I get older, you can go to my wedding. That was like one of the things I remember telling her. I'm going to graduate from college. You're going to be at my wedding. Long story short, that didn't happen. I lost my auntie when I was in 6th grade. It was like 3 or 4 days after 6th grade had started. So that was like a big turning point for me. So up until that point, I was like, oh, I want to help my auntie. I want to help my uncle. But like once my auntie died, I was like, whew, this is a lot. Like, not only do I want to help her, but like I'm actually enraged by someone that I cared so deeply about not being able to make it to my wedding and my graduation. This is from the perspective of a child, y'all, not me as an adult now. Like, I see my aunt as a full person outside of my own experiences. However, when I was that young, my coping mechanism for her chronic condition was, okay, well, you will live long enough to see these things happen to me. And in a weird way, I think I was trying to prepare myself, or not even prepare myself, I was trying to tell myself or convince myself that my auntie would live long enough. But unfortunately she didn't. My auntie passed away in her her mid-20s. I'm in my mid-20s. And to be at this stage in my life now, oh, I do not want to get emotional. Ew. Anyways, to be 26 now, to know where I'm at, to know that my life has not even started, really, she didn't get the opportunity. I had to get myself together, but long story short, as an adult now, I understand that my auntie did not have the chance to live out her life to the fullest over a disease that is heavily stigmatized, under-researched, and also if you are from a low-income background, you are hindered by the lack of resources in order to live a more productive life. And my uncle is the same. He ended up losing his life to a growing brain tumor. It happened very quickly after us finding out. His happened later in life for me. I was in high school at that point. Editing Siobhan here. First and foremost, my apartment complex is fixing something else yet again. It's been going on all morning. So while I'm talking, you are going to hear the construction. I'm so sorry, but I have to clear up a few things. As it relates to my uncle, I didn't give much details about him as for like his influence. For one, like I said, he had cerebral palsy. He also was nonverbal and he was bedridden pretty much. He couldn't move on his own. So for me personally as a kid, it kind of made me depressed that my uncle wasn't able to just like live life to the best of his ability, even with his disabilities, because things were just not accessible. My grandmother is like 4'9". Everybody in my family is pretty short. She really couldn't do those things without the aid of like proper accessibility. And because we didn't have access to that, that shit is not common in poor areas. I don't care what no one says. You go into a poor area, there's barely even a sidewalk. If there are sidewalks, it's like halfway done. Trees are over it. It's not suitable enough for someone that's like using a wheelchair. To be nonverbal, you need people that are able to communicate with you effectively. Like, I don't know. I just felt very bad. So that's why now, whenever I'm like doing things in the space of medical school more specifically, I try my best to be more accessible to people that have disabilities, nonverbal, physical, because they deserve to have quality lives too. It kind of solidified the fact that one of the biggest issues that I was experiencing throughout my childhood and that impacted the people around me that I love, like my aunt and my uncle, my mom, my grandma, everyone, is the lack of resources and access to resources has impacted the health and the quality of life of everyone. And knowing that, I'm like, okay, what do I have a passion for that I could aid in this gap for maybe someone else's family? Because I know I can't do it for the two people that I've already lost. What can I do in the future? And I had already thought about medicine as like a vet, like a veterinarian. And then throughout school, I'm like, maybe I can be a doctor. Probably not. I had no idea what it took to become a doctor, what the pathway looked. I had no idea about nothing. All I knew was what a doctor was. I barely even knew what a doctor did. So that's how separated my dream was from what I perceived to be reality. I didn't have enough information about it to be certain. But I did know I wanted to go to college. So beyond just those familial experiences, just the idea of medicine and helping people in that way have always been a part of my life. I feel like my title is going to be very blunt and to the point. I was raised by a single mom who had help from my grandparents. We lived in Macon. We lived in almost every projects that they have in Macon. My mom with me have moved over 15 times to and from. And my grandmother place served as a stationary place of what we just keep coming back to, because my mom was really trying her best to stay out on her own and survive with 3 kids that she was taking care of without the aid of my dad. That is one thing that if you don't know what it's like to be poor, it's a lot of bouncing around. Growing up in that environment, it doesn't really make you hopeful. It really just drives you to be a few different ways. But the way it drove me to be is tunnel vision. I need to make my life better, do something different so I can take care of myself and my family. That was my whole vision. And I felt like college was this whole like magical space that was going to change my life and take me out of this situation, which I do believe college still served as that and will still serve as that for anyone that's similar to my background. But I literally idolized college because I was so forced into tunnel vision in order to remain hopeful and to remain positive about what my life could be without falling into the traps of what that causes. I'm also not making a statement to say that if you didn't do what I did, that something is wrong with you. No, those circumstances set you up to have a specific ending. And because I, for whatever reason, have the personality I have, and I do feel like my mom played a role in me aspiring towards education because she always pushed that. She didn't know what the hell she was talking about, but she just knew, yeah, I need to go to college. No one else in my family, in my immediate family more specifically, had went to college, and no one in my family at all had went to med school. I'm the first person to go to med school. Her motivation plus my tunnel vision, it just allowed me to going to college. Now, I will tell you a few things before I get into the college segment that I had no idea about college. Like I said, I was in the process of applying for college, and I will be very grateful and thankful for a lot of the teachers that I had that were helping me along the way because they see something in me. Mr. P, if you are watching this video, you are one of the most important people in my life. Why am I getting emotional? I guess because I've never talked about these things out loud. It's like coming to the forefront. If Mr. P is watching this video, I do want to let you know that I am so grateful for your involvement because you helped me get from point A to point B, and point B was college, y'all. I'm sitting in the library with him about to do some college applications, and I don't know how this conversation happened, but I think he asked me like, what schools are you applying to? Like, are you applying to any HBCUs? And I was like, yeah, I'm applying to Morehouse College. As a 26-year-old who goes to Morehouse School of Medicine, who went to Clark Atlanta University as a grub, I know for a fact that I was not gonna apply to Morehouse. There was so much ignorance that I literally was like, I'm gonna apply to Morehouse College. And he was like, that's a boys' school. What are you doing? And I was like, oh, He let me know like what it was, what it wasn't. And mind you, I'm a very smart student. I just didn't know. And once he told me, I was so embarrassed, and I was like, oh, okay, so they have girls' schools, aka like Spelman, and then they have like boys' schools like Morehouse, and they have like both, which is Clark, which is where I ended up going. I applied to other schools that I got accepted into. I think it was Fort Valley, Savannah State. However, I was not interested in going to any schools that I felt like my high school had too many people going to. So I ended up going to Clark, and I was the only person out of my class to go to Clark. And I think I only, like, just a few people from Macon that I knew of who was a part of my year, regardless of the high school, went to Clark. So that was like a fresh new beginning for me. If you want to know what I did in high school, I guess I could talk about, I was a dancer, I was a flag girl, I was a part of certain clubs. I was vice president of my senior year. I was second runner up to Miss Southwest. I just did a lot of stuff, but it had nothing to do with me wanting to go to college. I got a job at 16 or 17, 16 turning 17, and I used that little money to do my last year in band, and I crowdfund some money for my year as a flag girl. Also crowdfunded for like a pageant that I participated in. Mind you, I'm not a pageant girl. I don't know why I did that to myself. Yeah, those are the things that I did in high school, but I never did anything that was remotely medical related. I even wrote on Wattpad. Like, I had a whole Wattpad segment of my life. I wanted to be a creative writer also. Doctor, like I said, was a idea that was way bigger than me, that I really didn't have the faith in being able to become. And then I had writing that I used as a coping mechanism, and reading as a coping mechanism to make it through what I found to be like challenging as a child, because obviously I was poor. I would just write, and I had creative writing stories that I would just plaster to people on Wattpad. And I thought, maybe you want to be a journalist, because I also liked writing about things that I researched. It was just a whole different era of, this is what I really want to do, but I don't think it's possible, so maybe what I'm good at is what I'll end up doing. I ended up applying to college with a degree in psychology because I took a psychology course my last year as a senior, and I just said, okay, I'll do it. First of all, I already told you I was poor, so how the hell was I gonna pay for it? I had no idea. The FAFSA took me months to do. My mom had no idea what to do. I had to figure all that out by myself. Even with FAFSA, I didn't have enough money to fund going to Clark. Clark is not a cheap school. So they told us to apply for like this Parent Plus loan. My mom applied for it. She got denied, so I couldn't use her. And this is when I reached out to my dad. I do not have a good relationship with my dad, y'all, but at that time I was still putting in efforts to try to have a relationship with him. And I reached out to him like, hey, I'm gonna go to college, you know, can you put yourself on this loan so that I can go to college and I'll just pay on it? You don't have to pay for it. I just need you to serve as a co-signer. That man, long story short, it didn't happen. So I had to figure out how the hell I was gonna pay for college, because I had already gotten accepted and the first day of school was coming up. So I started looking online for different loans that I could apply to. So I applied for the SAL loan, which I'm paying on right now, and I applied for some scholarships. My mom was staying in the projects at the time, so I applied for like a Macon Housing Authority scholarship. I don't know if they still have that, but if you were living in Macon, or if you are a child or someone that lives in public housing, you maybe need to reach out to see if they have scholarships for you, because I reached out and they had $1,000 scholarship. It's not a lot, but it was something that helped me literally every year that I applied for. I reached back out to Clark. I think they gave me a little bit more money, like a merit-based scholarship and some other things, and my remaining balance was $3,000. No, it was 6,000. Actually, it was more than 6,000. It was a little bit over 7,000, I believe. So I had to figure out how I was gonna come up with that, and then that's when I applied for Sal Loan, and Sal Loan covered the rest of that, which was like the 7,000. But that didn't happen until classes had already started. So I was starting classes being definitely afraid that I wouldn't be able to like finish because I didn't have money to pay for the balance. But thankfully that loan came in and that helped me with just having enough for tuition and housing. I didn't have money for anything else outside of what the school had already paid for. So I knew that the little money that I saved working at my little job, my last job before I went to college was Fazolis, that I needed to outsource and get another job. So I started applying around after like the first 2 weeks of college, and I got a few interviews, but they all rejected me because I was a college student. And I guess I was very honest about, oh, most of my time will be spent at school. I don't know what my schedule will look like in the future, but I know what I have right now and I can work around it. So it was really hard for me. I did end up getting scholarships, but that happened a little bit later in the story. Got into college, needed more money, applying to jobs, applying to scholarships. There are 5 memorable scholarships that I applied to. However, I do know that I applied to more and got more. Most of them, if not all of them, came either during my second semester or during my sophomore year. So I got the Macon Housing Authority Scholarship. I got the Coca-Cola First Generation Scholarship. There was another one that I got, I don't remember it. And I had 2 more, but these 2 are very specific towards my journey into med school. I'm in my general biology class, and this was the first one, my first semester. We were sitting here learning, and then someone walks in and they're like, we have this program initiative, and can we talk to your students about this? So pretty much it is a program or an academy for pre-medical students or pre-health students in general. They wanted to help guide us to that point, so we would be in the program from our second semester as a freshman up until we graduated. So I'm hearing this and I'm like, this might be a sign, because mind you, I came in as a psychology major and I also came in as a BA. So I had no science courses outside of the general biology that everyone pretty much has to take. And I had already given up the idea of becoming a doctor because getting into school and trying to find money for school was so hard that I convinced myself that there would be no way for me to become a doctor because I can't even afford to eat food outside of the caf. No coins in my pocket besides these little red bucks. What do we call them? I don't know. You had a little red card. That's all I had. So I was so like convinced that I just couldn't do it until she started talking about this program. And then she also mentioned that they give us a scholarship every year. So I was like, these are 2 things. One thing you pedestalized and you said you wanted to do, but you gave up on it. She's sitting here talking about how they'll help you and you have no idea how to get there. So maybe they can help you. And 2, they're giving y'all money and you don't have no money. You need money. So these are 2 things that you need that they can offer. I think I even asked around because they had like a class before us, and I only heard like good ideas, or not good ideas, but like you should probably do it. So I ended up applying for it. I interviewed for it.
Okay, so I have an interview today and I just need positive vibes to come my way because this is very important to me.
Listen, the interview process was so stressful. I had to sit down at a table full of multiple people, okay, multiple doctors, and I was like, what is happening here? What is actually happening? And long story short, I ended up getting it, and I'm so grateful that I did because I feel like that was one of the most pivotal programs I could have ever been a part of that allowed me to be not as naive as I was coming in and made me feel as though becoming a doctor would be a lot more possible for me. I would be more in debt than the average person. However, I would still be able to get to that finish line with enough hard work, dedication, and just like resilience, which I already had at that point. So once I got into that program, I got that scholarship too. Who helped me with the application was Mr. P, which is why I'm saying he's so pivotal in my life, and I'm so grateful for him because had he not been there to help me revise my essay, I don't know where I would have been right now. And I'm also grateful for Miss helped me pay for my housing deposit because I didn't have, like I said, y'all, I didn't have no money, and I outsourced for literally everything. When I tell you, I was watching Grey's Anatomy, writing essays, looking for jobs. I had no sleep. Bus club, nothing like that kind of. I seen that my school offered a scholarship, a full tuition scholarship called the Charles Ackerman Scholarship, and you would have it until you graduated. And I said, if you can get this scholarship, you will be solidified. You have 3 scholarships that are repeat. Well, that will be the 3rd one that will repeat every year. You can apply for Macon Housing Authority again. So that means that your balance as a student will be covered. You just need another job. During the summertime, because they had a deadline midsummer, I believe. I don't remember how the timeline went, but I know I was at home, so it had to be like due during the summer, and I ended up applying for it and I got it. Y'all, when I got that full tuition scholarship, I called my mom, I cried, and I had a full-blown panic attack. As I'm leaving my freshman year, or I've already left my freshman year, I had solidified scholarships that would pay for my undergrad experience. But I had already also applied to be an RA, so I was gonna be an RA incoming, and I had applied for a summer internship because when you are part of the academy that I applied for, you have to have summer internships. So they help you and you still have to apply. So I applied to one and I was gonna stay in Atlanta. And it was the one at Mars School of Medicine, the Satcher Health Leadership Institute. And I did a summer there. And then during that summer is when I found out about, so it did happen in the summer. I think I submitted just after leaving freshman year, and I got my answer when I was in my summer internship. So it was just like a lot of stuff happening at the same time, and it just was a good experience. Now let's go to my sophomore year. I was an RA. Being an RA is no joke. Listen, if you watching this video and you probably sat on the 2nd floor with me in the suites 100, maybe you didn't like me, I don't know. Mind you, I was a sophomore. They thought I was a senior, like a grad student, talking about something. You think just because you have this job, you're better than me. I'm like, all I'm telling you is that he can't come in here. He can't come in here. We don't have visitation right now. You really think I'm gonna let him walk straight through this door? If you gonna do it, sneak. But y'all not even sneaking. You think I'm supposed to pretend like I don't see a boy? It was a lot going on there. But I made my coin with that job, and I also got refund checks finally, because the scholarships that I landed were more than enough, y'all. I had a summer internship every year except for 2020, because that's when COVID happened and I had to like cut my experience as a junior on campus short, and I had to stay home in Fort Valley with my grandparents, and that changed my entire life, y'all. Like, I lost money from my RISE research program, which I needed because I had a car at that time. I had to figure out how I was gonna go to class online, submit things online, do my work while not having a desk, not having Wi-Fi, having to have my phone on, but not also having a job. So I had a little bit of saving, but it eventually would have worn out. So I ended up getting a job at Domino's. We kind of had to vouch for, hey, we can try to do these things at home so that we can keep the income that we had, because it was helping us as college students like stay afloat, and they allowed us to do that. I had another research experience that landed me getting a paper shortly after I graduated. I was a part of the writers, like the news team, my first semester in college. That's how I knew that, okay, I like journalism, but I don't think this is for me. And I also told y'all that I came in as a psychology major with a BA. When I applied for that program, the Undergrad Health Science Academy, I changed it to a BS. And at the same time, I was taking general chemistry too. I kept scoring very well on my chemistry exams, to the point where my chemistry professor, he pulled me aside. He was like, what is your major? And I said, I'm a psychology major. And he was flabbergasted. He told me, you need to change your major right now to chemistry. I didn't listen to him at that time in organic chemistry 1. I believe that is when I finally decided to minor in chemistry, because my organic chemistry professor also pulled me aside and was like, you're doing really well. You need to make this something, like either a major or a minor. And I ended up getting my minor. So I had a psychology degree, BS, so I could take the classes that I needed in order to apply to med school. And then I also had my chemistry minor courses too. And I graduated, and I did not go straight into med school. I did not apply to med school. I did not take the MCAT, which we were supposed to do, but I just knew that I needed a gap year. After I graduated, I immediately started applying for jobs, y'all. Siobhan, keep a job. That was me at the time. I had already had multiple jobs, y'all, that I'm skipping over throughout that process because it's not really important to the story. But one of the big jobs that I ended up landing was at GEICO, and I started off at a higher percentage because I had a college degree. So that was my first big girl job. I actually hated that job, and I didn't keep that job for that long. Okay, I'm going all over the world. Basically, I worked at GEICO as a customer service representative for, I think it was from June until November. because I had gotten a job as a scribe in October, and I was doing both of those jobs at one time, y'all. Yes, both of those jobs at one time. And I ended up choosing to prioritize being a scribe more than being in customer service, because I felt like you said you want to be a doctor, you're taking your gap years, but you're trying to get more clinical experience. So prioritize being a scribe. And this thankfully was a virtual job, so I was able to balance two for a little bit of time. But after deciding that I couldn't do both, I focused more on being a scribe. As I was a scribe, I realized that I need money in order to apply to med school, and that this was just not functional for me. So I stayed as a scribe until that following July, and I only ended up leaving that job because I was able to become a postbac at the NIH. But I did that for 2 years of my life. I moved without any place to stay. I was basically homeless for a few weeks. I had a coworker who was willing to allow me to stay in her space. So I stayed in her space until I was able to secure a roommate. I did not leave Georgia with anything. I left Georgia with my car, my cat. I didn't even bring my cat. I had to come back and get her. I had no money. I just had credit cards, and it was $1,500, just enough for me to get a hotel and hopefully try to find somewhere to stay after getting like maybe my first check or something. I'm very grateful for the resources that they provided me, because while I was a fellow there, they had med school application help. They had a career service advisor for me. Like, I used every resource that I could to help me formulate my application, to help me know what I needed to do. So I ended up getting some more shadowing opportunities in radiology, interventional radiology. I volunteered at Duke Raleigh Hospital, and I was in a core lab for a period of time, and then I also went into an epidemiology lab. So I had a well-rounded experience there, and I'm also thankful for that experience, because I feel like their resources for med school is the reason why I was able to apply to med school and get into med school my first time. And I guess we can go into, my application process, because I didn't do a lot of things right. I'm gonna be honest with you. So I did tell y'all in the last segment that I was a part of a program that helped us throughout the application process and give us what we needed to change and work on. And I did everything that the person told me to do. She told me everything was pretty fine because I had research experience, but I needed more shadowing and I needed more volunteering experiences. So that's what I was doing throughout my first year of being a fellow at the NIHS. Application process, right? She told me, you need to try to get your application done before the process happened. We can review your personal statement. You could submit everything that you need to. We can go over your activity section. Like, she gave me the whole rundown of how to have a more productive submission timeline, and y'all, all of that went out the window. I submitted my application July the 4th, I believe. My application was not cleared until August. So yeah, and then although my institution went through a pay increase, I still did not have enough money to apply to nearly as many schools as is recommended. So by August, my contract had renewed. I couldn't get that new money until September. So I had to use the money that I had in that moment, as much as I had saved, to apply for as many schools as I could. Because I knew I didn't have the resources, I only applied to 8 schools. Yes, I only applied to 8 schools. I ended up interviewing at 3 schools, Howard, Mercer, and Morehouse School of Medicine, and got accepted into both Morehouse and Mercer. I got waitlisted at Howard, and I withdrew my waitlist application or whatever after confirming that I wanted to be at Morehouse School of Medicine. So 8 schools I applied to, 7 schools I sent the secondary for. And if you don't know what that means, it's like you have your primary application and then you have your secondary essays that are more specific towards the school. And if you don't finish the secondary application, then you are not going to be like a completed application. So the one school that I didn't finish a secondary essay for was Georgia Medical College, because I did not submit my Casper to them, which I thought I did, but I didn't. So I was so sad, y'all, because I was so sad. I had made myself feel like, oh, I really like this school. And I had pre-wrote my secondary application before even getting it back from them. And y'all, I couldn't finish it because I didn't have my Casper. So yeah, I said I only applied to 8 schools, which is true. I only had a completed application for 8 schools. So the 8 schools that I had a completed application for was Emory, Duke, Wake Forest, Greenville, Meharry, and the 3 that I had my interview with. And that was Morehouse, Mercer, and Howard. I did my Casper. However, I thought that I sent my score out to the school. So while I was in the process of submitting my secondary application, I like to go back through things to make sure that I have everything completed and I don't have to look back at it. And then I seen that their deadline to have your Casper submitted it had already passed. So in my mind, I was like, well, they already told us to have a deadline. I'm not going to submit this anyways. So I had just did the primary application for them because I couldn't submit my secondary application because it was too late for me to submit my Casper basically. I also applied to Duke. That was just like me throwing out into the universe. Like, I really want to stay in North Carolina low key. Will y'all accept me? They denied me. Wake Forest, they denied me. That's all I applied for. That's all I could pay for. I took my MCAT during the application process as well. I do not recommend doing that. I recommend taking the MCAT months in advance, like February, March. Like, this is the best time to be taking MCAT because if you have to take it again, you won't be in the cycle. It's a better time to do it and it's not during the application cycle. If you can bet on yourself and know that more than likely you will score well on your MCAT mid-cycle, so you take it in June or July or hell even August or September, there are a lot of schools that will still interview you. You're just pushing off the possibility of getting an acceptance earlier and having a better timeline. It's not the end all be all if you submit later. That's all I'm saying. I'm not giving you advice. I'm telling you that was my journey. I only applied MD. I was told maybe you should do DO. I said no, I don't have the money to do multiple application processes. I only can do what I can do, and I'm gonna do MD. I also tried to apply for the fee assistant program, y'all, but I couldn't apply for it. At the time, I was 24, and you had to be like over 26 in order to like apply by yourself without your parents needing to submit documentation. I do not talk to my dad, had not talked to my dad for years, and my mom cannot help me, y'all. So I wasn't able to apply for the fee assistant program. So all that money came out of my pocket. I spent a decent amount of money going in out of my own pocket to the point where I am in debt right now. Yeah. I am grateful also for my partner at the time because he helped me too. Y'all, it's so many hidden costs in med school applications. Is sickening. So I spent a lot of money basically. Me waiting for like interviews or just something back from the schools. I have a whole playlist of my med school experience that will give you a more in-depth insight on that. All I can say is that was one of the most depressing periods of my life. I had no idea that I would get an interview, or I was convinced that I had applied for a reason, but also at the same time, when it got around, I would say December, I had already interviewed at Mercer, but I had convinced myself that they hadn't told me anything, so obviously they didn't want me, and would I be willing to apply again? And I told myself no. I'm like, this is one and done. I don't have the resources to keep doing this over and over again. I will end up homeless if I prioritize applying to med school. It's just not gonna have to work, at least not immediately afterwards. I will say I had a lot, y'all. When I say I had a lot of dark nights, dark months, I was severely lonely. I was severely depressed. I felt like I made it to a point that I wouldn't be able to get past from because of money and because of the lack of resources. I knew that had I had the resources, I would have had a tutor and I could have scored amazingly. All I need is a platform. I got the plan, I got the brain, I need the resources for it. I just felt like there was no end with a good ending for me, and that my resources and my limitations forced me to present a story of myself that was not fully who I am or fully what I was capable of. Certain stuff made me doubt my capabilities as a student because I was taking everything so personal. If it ever feels like I can't talk about the application process too in depth, or I don't talk about certain things, y'all, it's because my experience as a first generation college student, as someone that had so many things I can't even mention in this video, that was a traumatic time period for me. And that is why I started vlogging on my channel, because I'm like, when I was going through this, I was looking for someone that looked like me, that act like me to some degree, you know, like a level of relatability. And I couldn't really find it. I don't want someone to be doing what I'm doing and not be able to find that source of light. So you might be in the cycle right now that I'm posting this video, there's still a chance. I think I got accepted into Moore School of Medicine in late March. It's a vlog on it, y'all. I probably got the timeline wrong. As for my letter of recommendation, I forgot. I had a committee letter. I know some schools are not able to do that because they have like a very large university and a lot of pre-med students. But I went to Clark. Clark is a private school. It was just like people over our health department. They came together and made my committee application or letter. And even after I landed my acceptance, y'all, I still had another barrier of now I have to move right back to Georgia and I have to carry all these things and I have to figure out the money for having an apartment. I have this apartment by the grace of a decision that I decided to make when I moved in with my roommate, and just having a certain company that I moved with and being able to apply still within their company and not have to spend thousands of dollars just to move into a new place because you have to pay like first month rent. I stay within the company that I lived in. Every step of my pathway to medicine has revolved around, okay, someone has given you the platform. Now you have to figure out how you're going to outsource for resources that you do not have, and that resource is almost always money. I pay everything myself. No one gives me money to pay for my rent, and I do this myself. You know, I'm grateful I have my first apartment, going to med school. I'm grown for real. Well, I've always been grown. I've always had a job. But there's an element of, although these financial barriers are here and they will be here for the rest of my life unless I like magically become rich, I have accepted this as my reality, that I will always have this barrier. And I'm here now, so broke, poor, as a med student, and I will get through it. I'm not gonna allow my circumstances, although they do impact me on a personal mental health level, I will not allow it to stop me from progressing towards my dream, my goal of becoming a doctor, because I didn't get here for no reason. I didn't cross all of those obstacles for no reason. Like, even the things I'm not saying, if you have a similar experience, you know exactly why stuff like this make me want to cry a little bit, because I am not supposed to be here. Like, my background, I am not supposed to be here. Supposed to. Situationally, I'm not supposed to be here. And I made it here through any discriminatory experiences I've had, I'm still here. And I'm grateful. I guess I can end this video now, because I just keep getting emotional. It's a little bit too much for me right now. It's the end, y'all. If you have made it this far, thank you so much. I'm so grateful. I just keep saying grateful. It's because I am grateful. I'm grateful for anyone that watched my channel, anyone that gives me the opportunity to ramble and just share my story. I am sorry if my story is not like very cohesive. This is my first time ever trying to condense down my experiences and talk about what got me here. And obviously I can make, I guess, more videos, more isolated on certain journeys in my life. Like, I could just talk about maybe college and my college experiences and what I think maybe helped me with my application cycle. I can do a video on that. Y'all just let me know what y'all prefer to have more insight to, but doing this all together, I guess, is not my niche. I was not perfect throughout this pathway, y'all. I was extremely sloppy. I moved to North Carolina with $1,500, and that was just enough for me to have a hotel. I didn't even think about food or anything like that. I went to college with no money. I just said, I'm gonna figure it out, and I applied for everything. Y'all, I was very sloppy for the most part. What I'm trying to stress to you is you don't have to be perfect in order to get where you need to get to in life, and you can get to higher routes than I did. You can get into your dream med school. You can get into so many different spaces. You just have to, one, understand that your background has definitely put you at limitations, and understand that every route of the way will be, at least in the beginning, shaped by those experiences or those lack of resources. And you need to outsource so that you can get what you need out of life, because I would not be here had I not had maybe 1 or 2 or 3 people at a time randomly giving me kindness and helping me get to that point. So it is possible. You don't have to be perfect. Med school do not require you to be perfect. I almost let my environment shape my dream and stop me from becoming what I am now becoming. But thankfully, that coincidence of that program person coming in my class at the time, giving me 2 things that in my mind were keeping me away from being a doctor, I changed my mind and I went towards it full-fledged and never changed and never went back after that. So Have your mind set on it. Know that you can do it. And under no circumstance does another person get to tell you how your experience should be and whether or not you can do it. Because I had an advisor tell me that they think I should just go ahead and get my PhD because getting into med school is too impossible. And I got into 2 of them. Probably would have gotten into 3 if I would have left my wait list. So you really got to set the pathway for yourself. You got to know at the end of the day got to end. And when that day ends, I end up getting whatever the hell I worked hard for. It may not be exactly what I asked for or exactly what I had on my vision board, but it is exactly what I asked for nevertheless. Again, thank you guys so much for watching my video. And I also want you to share kind words to someone else that could be reading your comment, because people do that and they want to come across something probably more positive. So I'm giving advice, you give advice, subscribe to my channel.